Okay, we are live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. This is a regularly scheduled city council budget workshop tonight around the table. Well, today is April 16th, 2024. It's 5:16 p.m. I missed last week, so I'm out of practice. Around the table, we have Councilor Leonard, Councilor Hawes, Councilor Schaefer, Councilor Trumbull, Councilor Dean, Councilor Yakubaga, myself, Councilor Pelletier, Councilor Fournier, Finance Director Little, and City Manager Deb Laurie. First up tonight, her congressionally directed spending.
Yes, I hopped in front of the finance director for the budget workshop tonight, so tis the season. Next week, applications, the window for submitting applications for congressionally directed spending requests closes. The city historically has identified a number of projects, municipal projects to submit. Over the last 2 or 3 years, they've really refined the process and said you can only submit 1 or 2 or 3, and if you do, you have to rank them. So we're trying to be somewhat strategic in what we submit. So we have at a staff level identified 2 projects that we would like to submit for consideration through CDS funding. One is the security screening checkpoint relocation at the airport. It would actually be a full relocation of the existing TSA checkpoint, and it would be constructed in such a way that you'd have the ability to expand up to 4 lanes, should it be necessary. The existing checkpoint would be replaced with concession leased areas, and the project would also entail some changes to the gate circulation area. Our internal estimate is about $17.5 million. So we think that would really be a good project to submit. The second project is the aeration project at our wastewater treatment plant. And for those, if you go into the tour tomorrow, 11:30, I think. Yep, I got the nod. You can see what this is actually will do for us. This is to replace the outdated and inefficient aeration system installed in 1993. The system enhances the ecological balance of the system and reduces energy needs. So it's a pretty significant energy pull right now. The blowers incorporate air into the flow to manage dissolved oxygen levels in a manner that supports our biological system, keeping it alive and healthy. So those are 2 projects that we'd like to submit. I had talked to an individual in Senator Collins' office. She felt that it would be appropriate to kind of focus on environmental and energy efficiency, and she thought the airport would be viewed in a somewhat different bucket. So she felt that this was a good ask and that they wouldn't necessarily be competing with one another.
Questions or comments?
All right.
I have 2 questions. First is $17.5 million to move some lanes. So I've been through that checkpoint. There's not that much to it. Is this a new building or a new
So
wing?
it would relocate it entirely on the 2nd floor. So when you come off the escalator, it would be off to your left.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then that would allow us to reconfigure the gate areas that are currently really compressed because of how the checkpoint is right in the middle of it and it really restricts flow.
I see.
So it's a full-scale relocation
Okay. That
and
makes
renovation of additional space in the 2nd floor.
a bit more sense. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
And then with the aeration project, are we at any point going to try to build another tank? I know that we
Yes.
had, is that something that we'll be asking for CDS, or is that something that we're going to be building?
I believe that's sitting in the capital plan for 26. So we're a little too early to
Okay.
ask for CDS yet. We need to get closer to the construction timeline.
Okay.
Aeration project is ready to go
Yeah,
this
I
year.
think I read that in the 2026, if I'm not wrong.
2029 is where we have it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Somewhere, yeah, but not this year.
Councilor Haas?
I was happy to see the airport one on there, because when you go through there a lot, you've done it. It is very congested at times, and coming up the escalator, there's people that are actually right there.
Yep.
Stopped, and it's, so it'll be nice to get that opened up again. And as far as the wastewater, I think whatever we have to do, and we can do it with something like this, we need to keep moving forward with those projects, so. we'll fall way far behind.
Well, we're gonna have to do it anyway, but it would be nice to do it with
Mhm,
several dollars.
absolutely.
Counselor Leonard, did I see your hand or no? Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Counselor Dean.
I thought there was something like this proposed in one of the renovations for the airport, where they would move TSA so that we would have
Yes,
beverages and concessions on the other side. Is that
Yeah.
something that would happen?
that's part of this, yes. Yep, and we had applied for that. We had applied for a grant, I believe, a year and a half, 2 years ago, that would do relocation of that as well as the second floor connector that we're doing right now.
Mhm.
We only received $14 million of federal funds, so we narrowed the project down to address the most urgent need, and we put this one sort of on phase 2, so now we're gonna go back and ask for phase 2 money.
So you basically go through TSA and then be able to relax and,
Yeah.
and wait.
And the flow would be better.
Mhm.
It's over the time, we've done what we had to do to be compliant.
I know one of our senators flies in and out of Bangor often and is familiar with this current setup, so hopefully that helps in the deliberations. Correct. Great, what else for CDS?
So, last week, so at the last council meeting, we talked about a couple that had come in. As has always been the case, we don't as a staff, provide letters unless the council's taken a position. There were 2 other requests that came in that the council had previously taken a position on based on your allocation of ARPA money. So one was some federal funds to do, work with the community project that was proposed by Heart of Maine United Way. So we did provide a letter for that. We also provided a letter to Shaw House for renovations. The council provided funding to do exterior renovations. The 2 additional requests I have are from PCHC. They are looking to renovate and expand their practice at 1012 Union Street. It would allow them to consolidate their adult wellness center at this location, as well as renovate the location. The project cost is estimated at $4.9 million. They're requesting 100% funding, but have indicated that they would commit to raising up to $500,000 for that project. The adult wellness center is in leased space. Because I asked, well, what happens to this other space? And they said it's in leased space, so there's that. You want me to stop there and see?
Sure, comments or questions on that?
Quick, I don't think there's generally been any that we haven't, that have asked that we haven't done a letter for, have there been?
Not very often, no.
So how, like, if they submit, say PCHD.
Yep.
And they submit the application to the senator, they say, okay, you got a packet of letters of support.
Yep.
And do you know how they get graded? I mean, how they get, is it the Senate, what senator decides they really wanna fight for which project, or, I mean, do we?
I would assume.
Yeah,
I have no idea how they,
because like last year, we got some money, but we didn't get obviously everything we asked for.
so the only thing that we got funded last year was the $300,000 that the city submitted was for the planning work related to a main science
Right. By the
location.
past, haven't we asked for money for like the fire building?
Yep,
up there?
and that's
It's
never
gone
been
up,
funded.
and so that's, we've taken that off the.
We have,
list.
because it hasn't made it, for whatever reason, they've never been able to find a bucket to fit it into. Is how it was explained, which is why in your proposed budget, it's actually proposed that the city just go ahead and bond the project. Because we weren't gonna get any federal funds for it. We put in the aeration project last year as well, and that didn't receive funding, but we're gonna give that one another
But do we
try.
know when they don't? If it's like, oh, geez, you just missed, or you weren't even.
No, we
considered?
don't
have
even, we have
idea?
no idea.
Yeah.
Yep. Also,
So for PCHC's letter of support, it sounds like they have a budget and a
Yeah.
plan for doing that.
Yep.
questions, do you need a thumbs up? I don't see any.
As long as there's no
Opposed.
objection, we're gonna move.
Great.
Okay. And then the second request we had was from Dignity First. Their request is for $4.7 million to cover costs of infrastructure for Homeful Village. Their planned project that kind of replicates, I think, what happens in Houston.
Counselor Schaefer?
Do they have a budget and a plan of where this would be and what,
Not that I was provided.
okay, one of my hesitations on that one is that I feel like it's a little grassroots at this time.
Counselor Leonard?
So, last time I talked to, the director, Jamie Beck, she's currently working with, WBRC for what that budget is right now. She seems very, happy to illustrate what that budget is and what that process is to the council. I know we've been supportive of the past writing these letters for her, and seeing as how we do have a housing crisis, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't write a letter of support.
Have we done a letter for this in the past?
She shared that we did one last year. I didn't go back and look. Every year, I'm just trying to make sure that you have all of the information that you need, to take a position.
I think we did, yeah, I think we did last year.
We did.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And, she shared that, they're still in the early stages. And when, they're ready to present, their full project proposal to the city and the council, should be happy to share their projected budget as part of that procedure, but they're currently not ready to share, a complete budget draft budget widely.
Yeah, okay, please go ahead and I'll go afterwards.
You have something to add?
Yeah, that's my hand.
Oh, I didn't see it. Thank you.
I have no problem, doing this. Because they're gonna have to go through all their stuff with the congressional delegation. So to me, that's not really our call to make as to if they have a plan or not. To me, it's what they're gonna have to submit. I'd be supportive of what they wanna do.
Thank you. Counselor Yakubaka?
Yeah, I'm supportive of this. I'm excited to see what the project would look like, and we know it's gonna address a specific issue in our community, hopefully. So I wanna see what's gonna come out of this, so I'm definitely supportive of this.
I did have an opportunity, a couple of months ago, I think, to see kind of a draft plan from Jamie and thought they were making good progress. And I agree with Council Fournier, before federal dollars are allocated, they're gonna go through a due diligence process. So I'm happy to lend our voice to something that could help with homelessness in Bangor. But I see we had doubt, do we need to do a roll call?
I would just, I'm fine and supportive as long as it doesn't, I just don't, as long as our city projects are not,
Take a back seat because of that.
Right. That's my only that's a big hesitation.
Okay. All right, I'm done.
Thank you.
Now budget, and I'm gonna add a reminder that we have planning board at 7. So.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, Dave.
That's okay.
Not expecting a lot of controversy on the golf course, but you never know.
We keep Rob.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda, which is budget. I assume Director Little, you're gonna take us through?
Yes,
Great.
so as Debbie mentioned, we do have a hard stop at 7. So we'll see what we can get through, and if we don't make it through everything, we'll hope to schedule another night. So what we did, everyone's been provided a hard copy book. It's also on the website. That has a little bit more detail. For counselors who weren't through the budget process last year. Last year, we did up some more of a summary type page for the agenda workshops to kind of go briefly through everything, and then we would expand as questions from the council came up, which was what was in the agenda packet for tonight. So that's what I'm going to go through. So first up is the golf course.
Can I do another introductory statement for you too, especially for Councilor Dean, and I see Councilor Fish isn't here. The important thing to remember, the operations that we're talking about tonight are what's referred to as our enterprise funds. And which that means is there are no tax dollars associated with operating these. These are fully self-sufficient. They operate based on user fees that are assessed and not property taxes.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's always
Write
good.
that down. Thank you.
Makes the conversation a little easier.
That was in my note that I forgot to read. I was gonna mention that.
Have to have property taxes.
So for the golf course, their proposed budget, for the upcoming 25 year, does include an increase in revenues, from 895,000 last year to 973. That is based upon usage of the golf course, which is good. We have increased customer volumes. We are proposing that we use some fund balance to cover capital needs. That is 48,900, which is up a little bit from last year's request of 40,600. On the expenditure side, the expenditures also have gone up, as we will see in most departments and divisions, that their expenditures are higher. Debt service is fairly flat. There is an increase in capital needs, but the other increases are related to utilities and payroll costs. They have no new programs that they've requested. Their capital plan, which is in the book, as well as a 5-year capital plan for ongoing projects, but for 2025, it is reviewing the clubhouse, seeing if there is doing it sort of like a study and a building review to see what type of renovations that we should make or changes to the clubhouse to make the experience better for our customers and ongoing course improvements. Their priorities for the upcoming year is to maintain and improve our infrastructure. They do an excellent job of doing that, so they want to continue that so we don't go backwards. Maintain our Audubon certification. The honeybees have made it through the winter. I understand we'll be having some honey this year. And so we want to continue on with that. And also phase 2 of the airport runway approach. That was in the past, we had to take down some trees for the runway approach. There's still some landscaping, bunkers and reseeding and stuff that still needs to get done. It's been a little wet, so hopefully we can get that done this summer. And that is essentially the golf course, unless there's any questions.
Counselor Haas?
On your Audubon certification, you just renewed that, correct? Did you just get,
Yes, we did.
okay,
Yep, so this will
so,
be our.
oh,
This will be our second year.
into that,
Yes, correct.
okay,
Into our new, it's recertification every 3 years.
so
of
you have
some sort.
another year.
Yep,
What are you, I'm not gonna say, what are you planning? I know you're planning something for that next round that they would be looking for that you probably have to add, like you did the bees,
the bees are it.
that's it?
Actually, the bees are it. When we had a site visit from them, that was when we were kind of tossing around whether or not it was gonna be, a good decision for us. And they said, there's your case study right there. So, okay,
Great.
so that was not the reason that we brought bees on board, but, that was, a reason for sure.
That was a good choice to go for that certification.
For the people at home and for our new counselors, would you introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Rob Jarvis. I'm the head golf professional at Bangor Municipal Golf Course.
Thank you. Counselor Schaefer?
Every year I'm gonna say, I think it's awesome that we do the Audubon certification. I love the bees. I love the bee videos. I think that's great. And
There are too.
and I get the sense that like the bees are great for certification, but I also get the sense that you guys at the golf course are really enjoying beekeeping or enjoying the challenge of.
It is expected that I would enjoy it so much, to be honest with you, but it is probably, other than when are you gonna open? It is the number one question I get asked. How are your bees? How are the bees? When are we gonna have honey? So it's really great that the players have embraced it too and are learning about them. And that's the goal with the videos, is, to bring further awareness that, hey, this is
And it's great they made it through the winter.
which
Which is a big thing. I
great right
someday
now.
I'm gonna I love bees. Someday I'm gonna have them. I don't at this point in my life, but it seems like such a very satisfying, but also challenging.
Last year was very
hobby.
challenging, but it's great. I love it.
Awesome. And when are you gonna open?
Friday.
Friday, all right.
Friday for walking only. We haven't
Nice.
released it yet. We just actually decided a couple hours ago that it'll be good for people. They'll be able to get out and walk. Still a little damp out there, but that's okay. They won't do any damage. We're not sure when we'll have golf cars and some other sorts of things, but
And my last question, what are the other Audubon certified courses in the state?
that's a bit of a moving target.
Yeah,
I know Portland Country Club is they were the first
mhm.
to get it. And then there's been some smaller 9-hole courses that have done it. And every year it seems one adds and one drops,
Mhm.
it is a process. It's
Yeah.
the recertification's a lot of work. It's a commitment. We're fortunate. We have, we're we follow all the codes and we have inspections, and that's a big part of thing, how you keep your pesticides and chemicals. So honestly, some places just aren't equipped to do it. But yeah, it's usually 4 or 5 that do it.
Counselor Trumbull?
Yeah, just a question on the increase in, revenue. I mean, I understand expenses are going up, which makes sense. But where are we getting additional revenue?
So we,
And how does that break down between, what's the other, that's 50,000 almost, other
So-
versus,
yep,
Well, the other is the use of the fund balance.
okay.
That 48.9 is
So
coming.
that wouldn't be a transfer. And if you did the transfer in line, what's a transfer in?
Transfer in would be money coming in from another department.
Oh, okay, right, I got you. So that's fund, that 48.9.
Right, that's coming out of the golf course fund balance to help with capital needs.
Okay, so are the charges for services, like sponsorships would be under that, charges for service?
Right, sponsorship, memberships,
Yeah.
daily play,
Okay.
cart rentals, all the other charges that they have at the golf
So
course.
is that like basically, so that wouldn't be the same as this year, how are we projecting that to increase?
Yes, that was increasing over last year.
No, I mean, we've capped out memberships, right, and.
Yeah.
So how we haven't changed the rates, have we?
not this,
So
no.
why are we gonna get more revenue?
Because all our revenue doesn't come just from memberships.
We aren't,
Right,
we aren't gonna get more revenue.
right,
Sorry, Dave, but I'm gonna stop you for a
Okay.
second. At the end of fiscal year, the last fiscal year, our revenue was at $983,000.
okay, so we just.
So what I'm doing is, to be honest with you,
Just closer to the budget.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm putting ourselves out there a little bit
Yeah.
more. The last 5 or 6 years, I've been pretty conservative, just with the landscape of everything. And at some point, that conservatism will be to the detriment of the facility. So when Tracy and I went over the budget this year, I said, we've done really well the last couple of years. If it hadn't rained all of June, we would have hit $1 million for the first time. So you can imagine what a tough pill that's for me to swallow. Regardless, so that's where we came up with this figure. It already exists in the last couple of fiscal
Okay,
Right,
years,
it's
so.
an increase from prior
Right.
years. All of the budgets, I think, are based upon prior year activities and history.
Oh, that sounds good, thank you.
Counselor Yakpaga?
So are there any plans to increase membership? Like, because it's sold out for 2024.
As far as pricing or as far as number?
Number,
No.
so that's
The
the
only-
cap that you can handle.
Yeah, so we balance it between, obviously, access. Not everybody has been a public golf course. Not everybody can afford a golf membership or wants to buy a membership. So we want about 45% of our play to be member play and
Mhm.
the balance to be available to the public. So if we increase, members are your most frequent players. Too many members and you're gonna block out the tee times for the daily fee player, which certainly is doable, but then your membership rate is gonna go up. So it's always with public golf courses, it's always a balance of where your revenue balance is. Certainly, the community would love us to add some more,
Yeah.
but at some point, it would be really tough for that person who just wants to play once every 2 weeks at Bangor Muni. They wouldn't probably have it's already difficult.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Counselor Fournier?
Thanks for putting in how much you made last year. Appreciate that. I had the same question as Councilor Yakabaga, but also with green fees.
Mhm.
Are we increasing the green fees at all?
No,
Okay.
no,
And what's the spread between Bangor residents and non-resident?
as far as membership, green fee,
Just green fees
green fees, single day fees are the same,
for a Bangor resident or
right?
non-resident?
Residents and non-residents get a discount on membership and then 10 play tickets.
Okay,
We truthfully, we sold very few single resident green fees because our 10 play tickets,
they're doing more than 10.
you save $30 right off the bat, so
Alright.
they don't expire.
Yeah.
So most people come in, they buy a 9-hole punch card and they punch it as they go and then they have it. So it's not a membership, but it's they kind of get it out of the way. Maybe they only play 10 times and it's a good Christmas gift, Father's Day gift, Mother's Day gift. And we just found we weren't getting the usage out of that one day person.
Yeah.
And quite frequently, we weren't always told the truth.
One last question, fund balance, what are you sitting on as far as the fund balance goes?
As of the end of June of last year, 1.1 million.
1.1?
Yeah, of that, about 644 is unrestricted.
And
Is the pump station paid off?
The maintenance barn fiscal year 26. It's my job.
yeah, so that was almost a year ago. Roughly, what is it now?
I don't know what it is currently.
Are there plans for that fund balance? I just didn't see anything out to 29.
So I'd like to, obviously, you folks get through all of this, but at some point, we will want to come up with a plan to utilize a percentage of this, I think. You know, the golf course has never had a major renovation. Not that I'm suggesting it needs one, but some tee box drainage, those sort of things. The clubhouse, we've kept it as nice as we can. We're really outgrown. It definitely needs some work. So I think just even being able to add a little bit of money here that doesn't necessarily impact the golfers and the fees, right? Because ultimately it's the city's money, but the golfers have created this little nest egg that we have. So it's pertinent, in my opinion, to make sure we continue to invest in the asset that they have. Basically, they've been funding, because, you know, they love the place, and things right now are going good. So I think it's a good time to start looking at how we spend some of it. You know, you never know when you're gonna have a miserable year, and we're a weather-related business, so you always want to keep a good part of that in there, just so you don't have to stress and raise fees and react poorly. But certainly some of it, we should start looking at how we're gonna put it in there.
My 2 cents would be maybe increase the clubhouse a little bit more.
Right, and that's with the clubhouse expansion review that we're doing this
Right.
year.
That
It'll
would-
give us an idea of where we can go with that.
Yeah, we're tripping over each other there, that's for
Yeah.
sure, but we're fortunate to have what we do.
So based on that, we anticipate the 5-year plan will change next year, depending on what comes out.
Right.
Anyone else? All right, fingers crossed for good weather.
Thank you.
Moving on, economic development.
So our next one is the Economic Development Fund. They handle, a lot of the property that the city has out in the main business enterprise park around the airport, location. And, they are, right now, we're projecting for the revenue side to essentially remain flat. Their revenue is based upon the properties that we have that we lease out. That really hasn't had any significant changes. On the expenditure side, again, expenditures are relatively, they've gone up a little bit, mainly in capital needs. Other than that, operating and debt services essentially remain flat as well. No new programs have been requested. Their capital plan includes, our normal property upgrades, but there's also a program in there to do a property assessment, to essentially a study of all of our properties. What should we do with them, their condition, so we have a little better tracking and handle on the city-owned properties and what we may go forward and what we can do with those in the future. Their priorities for the upcoming year is that assessment analysis, a review of all the airport and city-owned properties related to the airport needs. So like I said, they manage most of the properties around the airport, which impacts the airport or could impact the airport with their needs. And the commercial kitchen, which has been an ongoing project for a while, but that is in motion now, so that was gonna be a priority for next year.
Questions? Councilor Trumbull.
What happened from 2 years ago? We had a big drop off in revenue from 600,000, then did we lose a major tenant?
Well, let me add Ann. How do I add Ann?
And is the Wayfair building part of this fund, so is that gonna see a jump this year? What's the different fund?
Wayfair is part of the airport.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which, which lease went down, this year, but I can get you that information.
Yeah, it looked like it was the previous year, budget
Yeah, it
year.
was between 2003 and
Yeah.
2024.
All right, thank you.
We can get that and get it to you.
Councilor Leonard.
I don't know if I'm speaking out of turned. Do we want to talk about Placer? Can we talk about Placer.ai right now? Or do we want to stick with the budget right now?
Tonight's just budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, in regards to that, the only thing I really want to reiterate is, well, not reiterate, is state that I would like to see in the, for a future, budgets with the business economic development, using enterprises that exist here in Bangor to develop what are some needs that the community has been looking for, been asking for, and to sort of bring those ideas throughout the year to council, and then we can have all those right here before us so that we can potentially make decisions on new opportunities that we might want to expand upon from an whether it's business or economic expansion related to for the city. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but a lot of this discussion is based on Placer.ai, which is a
Well, the Placer AI is going to be talked about when we do actual business and economic development, which falls under the general fund.
Hmm.
This is a standalone enterprise fund for just particular
okay.
properties.
I'll
So we will
save
come
this
up later.
discussion for later then. Okay.
Councilor Fournier?
Was it the sale of the Central Street property?
I think that could have been, yeah, it just,
But we wouldn't have budgeted the revenue.
no, I can't.
Oh, this was a budgeted. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And it may have been a year
Unless you-
budgeted some excess fund balance.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll get that out to you.
Oh, I think that was it, because that's why it's so high, because we're making some major renovations.
we-
to one of the
right.
properties.
That could
Yeah.
have, right, it could have included fund balance for
Yeah.
capital needs.
Looks like we're set on this.
Okay.
Thanks, Ann.
Thanks,
Enjoy
Ann.
your conference.
Okay, thank you. One more, parking.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stay for parking.
Oh,
So parking fund is next. Again, with, on the revenue side for the parking funds, anticipated for revenues to remain relatively flat. Expenditures are going to remain relatively flat. No new programs requested. Our capital plan is for continued maintenance of our parking structures. That's gonna be an annual thing. As long as we have parking structures, they're gonna require maintenance. Looking at improving technology, for parking and, starting to fund a maintenance reserve. Their priorities will be looking at technology upgrades for a parking app, enhancing the website for parking needs, increased enforcement for ticket violations, and upgrading the aging equipment. We have, which councilors may recall, we just did a new contract with the new parking firm. They have now taken over, and so this budget is, sort of we don't really anticipate many changes at the moment. And that's how this budget has been scheduled, but we are hoping that they will increase the enforcement for parking. That may see some revenue changes, but that will remain to be seen. But so far, everything seems to be going well in the switchover. So we're hopeful that going forward, everything will be good.
Councilor Schaefer?
And we retained our staff. I see part here.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Questions on parking? Councilor Fournier?
Fund balance. I'm gonna ask that all night long.
Yes. Fund balance for the parking fund is 1.4 million, 830 unrestricted.
So you did know I was gonna ask.
Yes, I brought it with me. I remembered from last year. It's on to you.
Oh, fund balance for him. Yeah. Any other questions on this one? Thank you. Okay, now you can go enjoy your conference.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
Stormwater?
Next fund is the stormwater fund. This is operated based upon the stormwater fee that you get with your utility bill, your sewer bill. We do anticipate a increase in revenues. The biggest chunk of that is the use of fund balance for capital needs. There is a slight increase in some charges, and that's charges are based upon the impervious surface. That's someone driveways, garages, their house, that's based on their property. We do reviews continually with new construction and other projects that are going on. And we also do, which we went to committee for a few weeks ago on a flyover, which flies over and does a mapping of the city every about 5 years. And that calculates the new impervious surface, which updates these rates. On the expense side, there is some increases. They are mostly related to payroll and capital needs. No new programs have been requested. The capital requests of its continued system designs and maintenance. There's a lot of drainage projects and sewer and stormwater separation projects that are continually ongoing to try to protect the system and not create future significant costs if we don't do anything with those. Priorities are monitoring, updating the system to again continue to improve drainage areas and maintain compliance with our EPA decree, which requires us to not have polluted rivers and streams nearby. So that is what we're looking at for the stormwater fund.
Questions and comments?
Fund balance, $3.2 million.
3.2.
2.5 unrestricted.
2.5.
Okay, yes, Council Courtney.
So I know we're talking stormwater, but we also have sewer. Maybe tell us what the difference is between the two.
As far as.
I know what it is, but
Right.
I just
So,
thought,
right, so stormwater is essentially the runoff from rain, melted snow that picks up contaminants off your roof or your driveway that may be contaminated with oils. And that then flows into either our septic system or into local rivers and streams. So the better drainage that properties have to allow those to filter out before they get into the rivers and streams, the better chance we have of not having an impaired stream, which is our EPA decree, which is we had a lot of impaired streams because it was contamination. So the better our stormwater and drainage is for not only city property, but our watersheds and getting our citizens to maybe invest in drainage areas in their own property will help all of that stuff and help us in the future maintain clean water locally and helps us with the EPA decree. As where storm sewer is your, sanitizing the sewer that you use. We do have the storm drains and that type of stuff, but the sewer system is directly related to water that's going down to be treated at the treatment plant.
Anything else? Okay, best part.
Bass Park, also the known as Scottsdale Event Center. We still use Bass Park because that's what we call it. The revenue has an increase of about 250,000 or so. That is strictly based on number of events. There are more than 200 events scheduled for the upcoming year. That's a mix of Broadway shows, concerts, the basketball games. So it's a wide variety, the normal, the bull riding and the standards that they have, including like the state fair. On the expense side, there are some increases. Most of that is related to payroll and contracted services and utilities. There's no new programs being requested. Capital requests are continued improvement in the facility, maintenance to the event center. Their priorities is they do have a ballroom concert series that is coming up this year that's being sponsored by a local business. So that will be in the ballroom with a little smaller crowds, but it'll be an ongoing basis and a new revenue stream, hopefully. So they're really excited about that. Expand event relationships and to continue to rebuild the Bangor State Fair to add more family and friendly stuff for them. They brought back the agriculture piece by using the Cross Center last year as sort of the barns. And they're hoping to continue with that and then add more things as we go.
Yes.
Now, the racetrack is under Hollywood, correct? Under the casino? Do we ever get a report from them? Or have you had it and I missed it? I wouldn't be surprised.
No?
I am unsure. Okay, I'm looking over. I see a no from our city manager.
But I can do.
Well, I know we started some conversation with him the last time we had him here. And we never really got a whole lot of information back on structures over there, on the actual attendance, on the horses themselves. I mean, there was a lot of different questions that we thought would help answer. And regardless, they're gonna feed into Bass Park and Bass Park feeds into them with their attendance and their events. And the better that side of it is, it would be good.
So
Counselor
we get-
Trumbull?
Is it debt service for this show up under the different department, or is that, where's the debt service?
No, that's in here. There,
Okay, so that's,
Yeah.
the 2.6 that goes in, is that to cover the debt service, or?
the debt service is 2.8, yes.
Okay, so it's a little less, we have to put a little less to cover, so we've got it. Because with the transfer in is the money from the Hollywood Casino.
The transfers in would be money coming from the reserve, from the
Right,
city
from
and the
that,
reserve.
right, okay.
Yes, Counselor Fournier.
Building equipment, minor interior improvement, why was that? It's not a big amount of money, but why was that cut?
Well, we were looking for, what we could afford to do without trying to use fund balance. And we took some of those small things and talking with Chris, those types of things, those few, even though admittedly they are small, were stuff that could be held off, and didn't need to get done this year.
And revenue, from use of money and property, the 186, what's that?
That is a good question, but my expectation from that would be, that is typically what's in that line is interest earnings. That seems a little high, but I will verify what that is.
So what's the fund balance? That would be interest earnings, right? That'd be a large number.
The actual, which, I thought the city manager was coming up here.
I think I know what it is. I believe part of it is, obviously, we have some rental income that comes back to us from Hollywood Casino because they pay a portion of the costs associated with the utilities. We also have some rental of the track for private events that are outside of the operation of Hollywood Casino.
So actually, their fund balance at the end of last year is a deficit of 2.2 million.
Okay,
They did have, yeah, so that's where they are. We're looking at, obviously, we're tracking things as we go, but they're at a deficit as of the end of last year.
so this is more of a bigger question. So the interest earned on these various fund balances, do they stay within within the group? Or within the, whether it's stormwater or golf course, does that?
Yes, it's right. The city's cash at the bank is pooled into one account. When that interest comes in, we then allocate it out based upon their balance in that account.
Okay, so it's just kind of sub-accounting.
Yeah.
Doing it. But it's not showing in as a revenue on the other interest earned.
As in, when you say not showing as a revenue,
You know, well, for the golf course or
It's revenue for
economic
use of money and
development.
property.
right, it's used for money property, or some of the smaller funds, it's just gonna be lumped into the charges and other.
Okay,
This is not, for some departments, it's not overly significant, so it doesn't get singled out.
yeah, no, but for economic development, we were sitting on 2 point something. Well, sewer. The sewer 2 point.
Stormwater
Stormwater, thank you,
was 3.2.
right.
Right, so in stormwater, their use from money and property of 75,000. That's included in their overall revenue.
Right.
And fund balance isn't necessarily cash in the bank.
No, I know, I get that, but it should be. Maybe that, okay.
Counselor Trumbull?
Yeah, nice speaking for Chris, but looking at the capital plan, was there some discussion about having, some upgrades to audio equipment so that people, when they have events, we can actually provide the audio stuff they need rather than having to go outside the facility to get audio? Have we talked about, or have you guys talked about it?
Right. Isn't that?
Yep.
Come on.
Is it in the plan? Maybe I'm just looking
Chris
at the wrong
McGrail.
line.
Chris McGrail, General Manager of Cross Center. Yes, that has been part of our conversation. This past year, we used some capital funding for other AV equipment to help us get in a better position with a lot of our events, so we can create more of a under one roof. Long-term, it creates revenue stream.
Okay, thanks.
Counselor Schaefer?
Was the ballroom AV part of that?
Not yet. Projector screens, projectors, that sort of stuff, yeah. So
All I know is the overhead, there was never overhead sound. In years past, there had not been overhead sound, and it's amazing in there.
So, that's been there for 10 years. We now have somebody who is capable of making sure it works properly.
Well, it is like, one of my guys was like, make sure the microphone's there, because that made everything 1,000 times better, so it's appreciated.
Can you tell us about the ballroom concert series?
So the goal there is a 10 show plus series. It'll be smaller shows, a couple hundred people to max 1,300, 1,500 people. Tribute acts, comedy acts, speaking engagements. The goal for us is always a variety of content, new and exciting things that could be taking place. And unfortunately, the arena is intimidating for a lot of those smaller acts that are just trying to get up and going, or a regional act. So that's kind of where our focus is now that we've wrapped up the Broadway Bangor series. We're turning that focus to the ballroom series.
Exciting. Other? Okay, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Sewer, not to be confused with stormwater.
So on our sewer fund, we are looking at a increase in revenue. That is primarily due to a proposed 3.5% rate increase. There is some use of fund balance, which is down from the prior year, but it still is being used for some capital needs. On the expense side, increases are related to our biosolids, supplies and utility costs, as well as capital needs. There is no new programs being requested. Capital plan consists of equipment replacement, repair, sewer separation projects, the aeration project, which we've talked about a little bit earlier. And the reuse of the fund balance is, we are recommending and proposing that be used for a biosolid study and a capacity study for the plant. The priorities going forward, which hasn't really changed from prior year, which is biosolids, PFAS, the capacity study, and our aging equipment at the plant.
Questions about sewer? Counselor Leonard?
I just had a quick question. It's okay if you don't know the answer to this, Amanda. I was just wondering, I know there's an Excel sheet that's tracking all the equipment that needs to be replaced over a set number period of time. Do you know what the date is where that's going to start to balance off, where we don't have to worry about as much about capital expenditures, or is that really not in the foreseeable future?
It's really not in the foreseeable future, that we won't have to worry about it, but we are cresting the hill, so to speak, so that we'll be looking more at sustainable amounts on a yearly basis. Usually about May, once you get through the overall budget, I can come back and update you on where we're at. I've got the colored charts that show you, you know, where we're at as opposed to expected useful life. And then keep in mind, that's the treatment plant, but we also have the collection system. It's 150 miles of pipe that's, dates back to the 1850s. And so that will be forever ongoing replacement.
Right. By the time we get the old old stuff replaced, the new stuff that we've already replaced is gonna need replacement.
Roger.
And unfortunately, as we've seen with other departments, some of the equipment that they need, has like a flusher truck can cost $500,000. So obviously those things need to be planned for and replaced, because we can't have an unexpected, breakdown and need to come up with that type of money, out of pocket.
Yeah, and I know this is getting like kind of a bit too into the weeds regarding equipment, but are we accounting for any potential pieces of equipment that might be more rare to acquire and therefore those costs might be going up regarding those pieces of equipment?
Not necessarily rare, but we are seeing a significant increases in equipment in general. I mean, we do have a lot of particular equipment, when it comes to wastewater, but it's pretty widely used throughout the industry.
Right, it's-
Across the
Yeah, and
country.
obviously
Yeah.
I'm specifying wastewaters. It's hard to interrupt.
Right. Yeah, so our equipment it's unique to what we need it for, so it's not something you can just go down and get off the lot. So it's sort of a custom-made vehicle, but it is used by, treatment plants and collection systems throughout the United States.
Thanks.
So we don't know when a pipe breaks down until it happens, basically.
Not
We-
necessarily.
we're working
We're usually ahead of the actual break of the pipe.
Um,
We're in there TVing every day and driving a little robot. You'll see it if you come to the plant tomorrow. They're gonna demonstrate our little sewer robot with a camera. So we're in there looking at these lines every single day and we are grading them if they have a crack or if they have a bow in them. So we're constantly getting out ahead. It's very rare that we actually have a collapse that we need
So
to
you can
address.
anticipate it, so
Yeah.
because I saw with the stormwater, I think it was not the case. Is it the same system, like they have the same,
They do need to be, somewhat separated, and it's not always the same system. There's always going to be, some repairs, some unexpected things, which we budget for, small project repairs. But we do a much better job of looking at the pipe, seeing where something could go wrong and getting it fixed beforehand, which in the long run saves us money. Which is why when you look at the 5-year capital plan, you'll see, sewer separation or certain streets being out there because they've been identified as, we need to do this in the next few years. Otherwise, we could be looking at a significant problem.
Okay, good to know those are monitored, so that's good to know.
And also it's still early in the stage, but the asset management program that we purchased a couple of years ago, Public Works is putting their stuff in, and eventually Amanda's stuff will be in there as well. So that will help to gauge and grade things as we go to help identify equipment and lines and other things that, hopefully even better than what we're doing now on a replacement plan.
It's good, thank you.
Councilor Fournier?
67 million.
67 million?
Yes, but the unrestricted piece is kind of like I said of 2.2. I will say that we will be issuing, filling out an application for a new SRF bond order for the second half of the Davis Brook tank. Because we have funded that.
Oh, okay.
So we haven't gone up to bond
Okay,
for that.
yeah.
That'll be 17 million.
So you listed in current year accomplishments, clean jetted 46 miles, which was a 36% increase. How and why?
We have such amazing people right now. It is entirely the crew that we have over there. They are taking so much pride in what they're doing and they're trying to hit more lines. Yeah, I think we're gonna break that record next year,
Really?
gauged on where they're at right now
Yeah.
in April.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Good job. The last question I had was just revenues. When I look at 23 to 25, that's a $2 million increase. That wasn't all rate driven.
I'm sorry,
I'm looking at 2023.
9 to 11.
that was, so there was a 5% increase last year. That was one of the highest rate increases that we've seen because we had tamped down our rate increase through COVID and we had a lot of additional expenditures. But that was mainly driven by that 5% increase. We also did, check the fund balance for
Right.
the flusher truck, that was 600,000.
Yeah, it was
I don't know if that's-
941,000 came out of fund balance last year, which is in that revenue.
Oh, okay.
So that pushed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
We're only looking at 600 this year, so there's a 340,000 swing right there.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Trumbull?
Do revenues from other municipalities fall right under these, or were they're just under the same line?
They would be under other, of
Okay.
that 605,000, and that's something that, we had a 30-year interlocal agreement with other towns that we, process their wastewater that is coming up in 2026, so those revenues are lagging a little bit because of that 30-year contract.
And are those the same as are they based, like, the water district seeing less usage, so we're seeing less, we bill based on the water usage, so we're seeing less that we can bill for. What about the other towns? Do they build on their actual usage? Is it a kind of flat contract for these towns?
It's different, but we are going to standardize that with our new contract negotiations. Some towns, we bill them directly for what comes to us. Herman, for example, we bill their customers as though they are our own. So we're gonna standardize the way we do that between towns, but you're right. And there is lower usage due to water saving appliances, so we calculate that in. It's about 1% right now per year in usage that we're seeing in decline.
So yeah, that'll get talked about. The interlocal agreement, I'm sure will come back to the council and there'll be a bigger discussion going on. But like, as Amanda mentioned with the Herman billing, we bill their customers directly, but it's only to the extent that we're told someone has now connected to our line. So there, we do have concerns and we've tried to work with the town and communication with the Treasury Department that if new construction goes in and we're getting more flow, we're at least told about those buildings so that we can start building them.
Well, in addition to that is the stormwater. So they don't have stormwater connected to their sewer, but their sewer is aging. So all of that additional flow that we get during wet weather is essentially unbilled flow because we're just billing their customers off their water meter usage.
So we're looking at that agreement and how that needs to be structured properly so that we're getting the correct billing for the surrounding towns.
Did you have one more question?
Yeah, so I'm just confused, because I saw 600,000 is coming in as use of fund balance. But you just said the towns, that's where the other was coming in.
It's a different 600,000.
Okay, so I'm still confused. So would it be under charges for service?
Oh, actually, let me, I will verify that.
That charges for service number is just our meters, our usage. So I assume the other towns are under the 605,000, but we can verify.
But again, when it's broken down here. it's-
Right, I understand what your
Okay,
question is,
Okay,
and we'll get that out to you.
thank you.
I don't have a question. I was just excited to see the biosolid study. Hopefully we'll find some interesting data that we can use. Some new methods and alternatives. Be great. All right, I think we're on to airport.
Okay. Airport funds. As you can imagine, they are our largest enterprise fund. And so on the revenue side, we are looking at an increase in revenue. And that's not a significant increase, but a minor one. Essentially, there's an increase in our charges for services based on passenger volumes and increased parking fees. But there's less money being used out of fund balance for capital needs. So those sort of net together. So the overall increase in revenue is about $100,000. On the expense side, there is increases there, again, roughly around $100,000, and those are related to payroll and contractual services. The new program, there is a new program request. This was put in by, it's our Human Resource Department Executive Division is the one who submitted it, but it's related specifically to the airport. And this would create a new position of a human resource officer that would be paid for, they would answer to the executive division and HR, but they would be stationed at the airport and paid for by the airport to handle human resource needs directly at the airport. They are significantly large department compared to others throughout the city. And some of their HR needs sort of monopolizes the time of our HR staff. So that request was put in. Estimated cost would be around $90,000, which is essentially all payroll related. And then that would be ongoing from there. The airport's capital plan, they have two significant projects, which we've talked about many times, which are ongoing. That is the runway rehabilitation. And there's also going to be looking at doing a PFC application for a boarding bridge and TSA checkpoint reconfiguration. The normal other capital needs are infrastructure, equipment replacement, vehicle replacements, and upgrades to anything that's aging equipment and aging infrastructure at the airport. The priorities are both the runway and the terminal projects. The new parking lot that has been talked about, the transfer from the fund balance has gone through the first and second reading, I believe. That will add a new 800+ parking lot adjacent to Godfrey Boulevard, and then ongoing staff training and equipment. Fund balance, $120 million, 40.5 unrestricted.
40.5 million?
Yes.
Counselor Trumbull?
Is the 40 roughly million, is that what's in the investment account? So we have,
No, that's their unrestricted fund balance in their cash and investments as of the end of last year. I don't have the current figures. We're looking at 29, about 35 million in cash and investments.
Is that before or after the paving?
That was,
Or that was June 30th?
that was June 30th.
Okay.
I don't have the current figures.
Okay.
Other questions?
So back up under other revenues,
Mhm.
the 1.9. What's the breakdown of that? Jody?
That's,
Come on up. Come on up. Don't be shy.
okay. It's actually reimbursed expenses from our, since they reimburse us for, taxes, sewer and stormwater. Our fund balance is in the other, and it's also interest income.
Okay. Yeah, okay. That was,
And Dan's question, Bangor savings is 17 million.
so then I just had a bunch of picky questions. Insurance went up by 100,000 year over year.
Yeah, so actually we were under budget for this fiscal year. It went up more than we anticipated. And then there was a 12% increase.
Okay. 12%. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's,
we're seeing
That's
that.
liability, yeah.
that's liability.
Yeah, we're seeing that on all of our insurance policies. There's a significant increase.
And the interfund, I think you may have kind of answered that, but that went up 100,000 as well.
Most of that is driven by police department, our police services at the airport.
Because of all the planes landing and the
Well,
responsible customer.
it's really more because of wage increases.
Okay. And the other was the outlay, just coming down $1 million.
And it was just because we had a huge amount last year because of the terminal project.
And the last question I had was more under challenges. Shifting the airport-wide reactive culture to a proactive culture. I just didn't know that.
That is a Jose question. Come on up, Jose.
That's why I said that one for last.
Come on down.
So I just didn't know what that entailed. Because that's kind of a big, wide open.
Yes, so, as you probably know, over the last 4 months has been getting a layout of land, figuring out what are the different intricacies of the airport. One of the things that I, as an outsider coming into the airport, see is that we are meeting a lot of our operating and planning and overall operation of the airport on a as needed basis. And what I would like to do is shift from a just as we are, as there's a situation coming up, instead of shifting to a more proactive response. And so that is a big cultural shift that I need to continue to work on and develop and deploy. And I think Jody has been a instrumental figure as well as helping me get a sense, because a lot of the times the numbers drive what the narrative is. And so it shaves what I get to see, because it's tangible, it's very solid. But again, it's getting out there and having more visibility on how we're running the airport. Again, we're meeting everything that we need to do. But from an outsider perspective, I think we can improve significantly on a number of things. So, and I consider that as a challenge because it's an ongoing effort. So I think the first step is identifying what is it that we need to adjust, and reactiveness, responsiveness, those are things that we need to respond, and hopefully over time it shifts from challenges to accomplishment.
Great, thank you.
Questions? Have noticed lately that social media for the airport has been like more interesting, more interactive, more frequent. So I'm starting to see that on the Facebooks and really enjoying it. That it? Anything else?
Wow, nice job.
All right.
So I just wanna, we'll have budget meetings scheduled for, every Wednesday, essentially for the next couple of months. Is this format okay with everybody? Were you happy with it? And we'll continue that with the other departments. Okay, perfect.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned. Have a good night.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
So I was actually gonna, I didn't really want to bring it up during